Hello. When my fiancée insisted on a $180,000 wedding or no wedding at all, I simply canceled the plans. She lost her mind and later attempted to sabotage my promotion. In the end, that decision blew up her own life instead. My name is Gerard. I am 35 and I work as a refrigeration technician for a regional cold storage company in Eindhoven. Most of my week is spent driving between warehouses and supermarkets fixing industrial cooling units. The schedule is steady, the pay is good for the trade, and after years of doing it, I keep my finances organized because one expensive mistake in equipment can cost a company a lot of money. My fiancée is Aisley, 32. We had been together a little over 3 years and engaged for about 8 months when this whole situation started to unfold. We live in my house, which I bought 5 years before meeting her, so most of the big financial responsibilities already ran through me. I am writing this because what started as a disagreement about a wedding somehow turned into something much bigger and honestly much stranger than I expected. When I first met Aisley, she came across as confident and sharp. She had strong opinions about almost everything: restaurants, travel plans, furniture, clothes, even what brands of groceries were acceptable. At first I read it as personality. Some people just like things a certain way. Over time, though, I noticed a pattern. Anything modest she called embarrassing. Anything practical she called boring. She talked about things being cheap with a kind of disgust that always felt a little over the top. Still, money had never been a direct problem between us. She works as a dental lab technician making crowns and bridges for a private clinic network, and the pay there is solid. Between her income and mine, we lived comfortably. Not flashy, but stable. So when we started planning the wedding, I assumed we were approaching it the same way. Something nice, memorable, maybe a little fancy, but still grounded in reality. I had already set aside a pretty healthy budget. Enough for a good venue, a proper honeymoon, and enough left so we would not start married life under financial stress. The first meeting with the wedding planner changed everything. Aisley immediately started talking about things that sounded less like a wedding and more like a luxury event package. Imported floral walls, a designer dress budget that made me blink twice, a multi-day celebration schedule for guests who had never asked for that. She kept repeating one phrase over and over: it needs to feel high-end. At the time, I figured it was just planner inflation. Big numbers that get cut down once people start thinking clearly. Then the preliminary estimate arrived in my email. Just under 180,000. I stared at the number for a solid minute because I genuinely thought there had to be a typo somewhere. That evening, I printed the estimate and sat down with Aisley at the kitchen table in my house. I explained calmly that there was absolutely no scenario where I was spending 180,000 on a wedding weekend. She barely looked at the paper. Then she leaned back in the chair and said if I wanted a cheap wedding, maybe I did not want to marry her badly enough. I want to be clear about something before people assume I panicked about money. The issue was not that I could not technically afford part of it. The issue was that the number made no sense relative to the life we were building. The house we live in still has a mortgage. I have been paying it down aggressively for years because the goal was to have it mostly cleared before 40. I also keep a savings buffer because the kind of refrigeration systems I work on do not wait politely when they break. If a compressor fails in a food warehouse, it becomes a crisis immediately, and sometimes that means working odd hours or covering unexpected costs before the company reimburses things. Spending 180,000 on a wedding weekend would have wiped out most of the financial stability I had spent a decade building. So I explained all of that calmly to Aisley at the table. I told her the number was unrealistic and unnecessary. I said we could still have a great wedding for a fraction of that cost. Nice venue, good food, proper celebration, but within a sane budget. She did not engage with the numbers at all. Instead, she started talking about perception. According to her, weddings set the tone for how people see a couple. If it looks cheap, people assume the relationship is cheap. If it looks impressive, people treat you differently. I remember asking a simple question. Which people? She listed co-workers, extended friends, people from her industry events, even people she had not spoken to in years, but who might see photos online. That was the moment the conversation stopped being about the wedding itself and started feeling like a performance review for strangers. I told her again that I was not spending 180,000 on a wedding. Not partially. Not through loans. Not through draining my savings. It was simply not happening. She stared at me like I had just said something offensive. Then she said something that honestly surprised me. She said if I really loved her, I would want the wedding she deserved. The wording bothered me more than the price tag. Deserved. I asked her directly what she thought a realistic number looked like. I even pushed my own limit higher during that conversation just to see if she was willing to meet somewhere in the middle. I suggested something around 40,000. Still a big wedding by normal standards. She laughed. Not a small laugh either. The kind that people use when they think someone just embarrassed themselves. Then she said something that made the entire situation suddenly very simple for me. She said she would rather have no wedding at all than something that looked small. When Aisley said she would rather have no wedding than a smaller one, the conversation actually became very simple for me. I did not raise my voice. I did not argue. I just sat there for a few seconds thinking about what she had said and what it implied. Because if someone frames marriage as conditional on a luxury event, then the event is the priority, not the marriage. So I nodded and said all right. She looked confused for a moment, like she expected another round of negotiation. Instead, I told her something very straightforward. If the only wedding she was willing to have cost $180,000, then there would be no wedding. She blinked like she had misheard me. I explained it clearly. The wedding plans were canceled. I was not moving forward with deposits, venues, planners, or anything connected to that budget. For about 5 seconds, she just stared at me. Then she started talking very fast about how I was overreacting and how we had not even discussed financing options yet. Loans, contributions from family, maybe sponsorship deals from vendors she knew through work. That part actually made me more certain about the decision. I told her I was not taking loans for a wedding, and I was definitely not turning our marriage into some kind of social media brand collaboration. Then I said the part that really set her off. Since there was no wedding and the engagement was effectively over, she needed to start packing her things. Just to clarify the logistics. The house we live in is mine. My name only. I bought it long before we met. She moved in about a year into the relationship. So when I said that, I was not making a dramatic statement. I was stating the practical next step. She stood up so quickly the chair scraped across the floor. The reaction was immediate anger. She accused me of threatening her over money. Then she said I was trying to control her and punish her for having standards. I kept my tone calm and repeated the same point. There was no punishment happening. She had just told me she would rather have no wedding than a smaller one. So we were having no wedding, which meant the engagement was over, which meant we needed to separate our living situation. That logic made her even more furious. She started pacing around the kitchen saying I was bluffing and that I would calm down once I realized how ridiculous I sounded. But the truth is I had already reached clarity during that conversation. Once someone says marriage only happens if the event costs $180,000, the relationship has already told you what it is. At that point, the conversation had clearly reached the end. We were not discussing a wedding anymore. We were discussing whether the relationship itself made sense, and from my side the answer had already become obvious. Aisley, however, was not processing it that way. She kept pacing around the kitchen repeating that I was being dramatic and that I would calm down once I realized how embarrassing this would look if people found out. That part actually caught my attention. Not the anger. The word embarrassing. It confirmed what I had started realizing during the planner meeting. For her, the wedding was not about us starting a life together. It was about how impressive the event would look to other people. I repeated one last time that the wedding plans were canceled and that we needed to separate our living situation. She stared at me for a few seconds like she was waiting for me to backtrack. When I did not, her reaction flipped from disbelief to pure anger. She said I had just wasted 3 years of her life. Then she said if I thought I could humiliate her like this and walk away, I was completely wrong. I did not respond to that. There was no productive direction that conversation could go. Instead, she grabbed her phone, her handbag, and her car keys off the counter. As she walked toward the door, she said something along the lines of how I would regret this once people heard what I had done. Then she slammed the door hard enough that I heard a picture frame rattle in the hallway. A few seconds later, I heard her car start outside. The house went quiet. I stood there in the kitchen for a minute, just processing how fast the entire situation had collapsed. 3 years together, 8 months engaged, and the final decision had taken maybe 20 minutes. My phone buzzed about 10 minutes later. It was her name on the screen. Then it buzzed again, and again. Calls, messages, missed calls stacking one after another. I did not even open them. There was nothing left to negotiate and nothing left to explain. She already knew exactly why the wedding had been canceled. So after about the 6th call, I blocked her number. Not out of anger, just because I had no interest in spending the rest of the night arguing about a decision that was already final. The house was quiet after Aisley left. Not the normal quiet either. The kind where you suddenly realize how much background noise another person brings into a place without thinking about it. I walked through the kitchen and living room, just making sure nothing had been broken during the argument. Everything was still in place. Her laptop was gone and a couple of small personal things were missing, which told me she had grabbed whatever was nearby before storming out. Other than that, the house looked the same. I sat down on the couch and started thinking through the practical side of what had just happened. 3 years together means there is always some level of shared stuff. Clothes in the closets, cosmetics in the bathroom, boxes in the spare room. None of it complicated legally, but it still needs to be handled in a way that does not create more problems. My plan was simple. Give it a day or two for things to cool down. Then arrange a specific time for her to come collect everything while I was present. Clean, direct, finished. I went to bed earlier than usual that night because honestly the decision itself had drained most of my energy. The next morning I woke up to a quiet house again, made coffee, and went to work like I normally would. My job does not really allow for personal drama days. When a refrigeration system goes down in a storage facility full of frozen food, people expect you to show up and fix it. Around mid-morning my phone started buzzing. At first I assumed it was Aisley trying from a different number. But when I checked the screen, the name surprised me. It was a guy named Leon who I had met exactly twice through Aisley at some dinner event months earlier. The message said something simple. "Hey man, what the hell happened with you and Aisley last night?" I did not respond right away because I was literally standing inside a mechanical room trying to diagnose a compressor problem. 10 minutes later, another message came in, this time from one of Aisley's co-workers that I barely knew. Then another, and another. Within half an hour, I had 5 separate messages from people connected to her side of life, asking some version of the same question. That was when I realized something important. Aisley had not just left the house angry. She had already started telling people a story about what happened. And judging by the tone of those messages, whatever story she told them sounded very different from reality. At first, I ignored the messages. People tend to ask questions when they hear drama, and I was not interested in managing rumors while standing inside a freezing mechanical room, trying to keep several tons of stored food from thawing. But the messages kept coming. Around lunchtime, Leon called instead of texting. I stepped outside the facility to answer because at that point curiosity got the better of me. The first thing he said was that Aisley was telling people I had dumped her because I refused to commit to the marriage financially. According to her version, I panicked about responsibility and canceled the wedding after she had already invested months planning everything. I told him the short version of the truth. She demanded a $180,000 wedding. I refused. She said no smaller wedding was acceptable. So I canceled the whole thing. Leon went quiet for a second and then said that sounded very different from what she had been telling people. That was annoying, but still manageable. Rumors burn out eventually. What I did not expect happened 2 days later. For the past few months, I had been in the running for a promotion at work. The company was opening a supervisory role overseeing maintenance scheduling for several large refrigeration sites. It meant less field work, more coordination, and a noticeable pay increase. The final decision meeting was supposed to happen that week. Wednesday afternoon, my supervisor, Mark, called me into his office. His expression already looked irritated, which immediately told me something was wrong. He asked me a question that made absolutely no sense at first. "Do you know someone named Aisley?" I said yes. She was my ex-fiancée. Then he turned his monitor toward me. There was an email open on the screen. The sender was Aisley, and the email was addressed directly to the company's general operations inbox. In that message, she claimed I had serious anger issues, that I had threatened her during a domestic argument, and that someone with that kind of behavior should not be placed in a management position responsible for other employees. For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen trying to process what I was reading. Canceling a wedding was apparently not enough for her. She had decided to try sabotaging my promotion too. My first reaction was honestly confusion. Not anger. Just confusion about how she thought this would work. Mark let me read the entire email. It was not short either. Aisley had written several paragraphs describing me as aggressive, unstable, and supposedly capable of intimidating behavior during arguments. She implied that promoting someone like that into a supervisory role could create a hostile environment for other employees. If someone did not know the background, the email sounded serious. But the problem with claims like that is they only work if there is some history supporting them. And there was not. Mark leaned back in his chair and asked the obvious question. Do I need to be concerned about any of this? I told him exactly what had happened. No dramatics, no exaggeration. I explained the wedding argument, the $180,000 demand, the canceled engagement, and the fact that she had left the house angry 2 nights earlier. He listened without interrupting. Then he asked something very practical. Do you have the messages from that night? Luckily, I did. Blocking her had stopped the flood of calls, but the earlier messages were still in my phone. I handed it over and let him scroll through them. The tone made things pretty clear. They were not messages from someone afraid of an aggressive partner. They were messages from someone furious that they did not get their way. Accusations. Insults. A few threats about how I would regret humiliating her. Mark read several of them and handed the phone back. Then he sighed in a way that told me he had already reached a conclusion. He said this was not the first time someone's angry ex had tried something like this. Apparently, it happens more often than people think when promotions or career changes are involved. The important part for the company was whether there had ever been complaints, disciplinary issues, or behavioral problems connected to me at work. There had not. My record there was clean. He closed the email window and told me something that made the whole situation start looking very different. Attempting to interfere with someone's employment using false accusations can create serious problems for the person making those claims. And since she had sent the message directly to a company operations address, there was now a permanent record of it. At that point, I assumed the situation would simply stop there. My promotion review continued normally. The email from Aisley was documented, my explanation was noted, and the company moved on with the evaluation process. What I did not expect was that her attempt to interfere would start creating problems on her side instead. About 4 days later, I received another message from Leon. This time the tone was very different. He asked if it was true that Aisley had contacted my employer. Apparently, she had been telling people about it like it was some kind of victory. From what he said, she was framing it as standing up to me after I supposedly mistreated her. That alone was strange, but things escalated quickly after that. One of the people she bragged to worked in the same dental clinic network where she was employed as a lab technician. Not the same office, but the same corporate system. Information travels fast in places like that. Eventually, someone in management at her clinic heard about the situation and decided to look into it. From their perspective, one of their employees had contacted an outside company and sent a serious accusation about someone's behavior. That kind of thing creates risk for any employer. So Aisley was called into a meeting with her supervisor and someone from HR. They asked her directly whether she had sent the email. She said yes. Then they asked if there had been any police report, formal complaint, or legal case related to the accusations she made. There had not. From what Leon later told me, the conversation ended up being very short after that. Her employer did not want their company connected to a situation where an employee was sending unverified accusations to outside businesses during a personal dispute. A few hours after that meeting, Aisley was released from her position. Just like that. The attempt to damage my career had ended up costing her own job instead, and the fallout from that decision was only starting. I did not hear directly from Aisley after that, which honestly made sense. If someone tries to sabotage your career and it backfires badly enough to cost them their own job, contacting you again is probably not high on their priority list. What I did hear about came through other people. Leon called me about a week after everything happened and gave me a quick update on how things were unfolding on her side. Losing the job had clearly not been part of Aisley's plan. Apparently, she had gone into that HR meeting expecting a warning at most. Instead, she walked out unemployed. The dental clinic network did not want to be involved in a personal conflict that included written accusations sent to another company. According to Leon, the situation had started spreading through her social circle pretty quickly. That is the problem with dramatic decisions. The story eventually reaches people who ask inconvenient questions. Some of her friends asked the obvious one. Why would you contact his employer in the first place? Others apparently asked if there had actually been any police report or legal issue connected to the accusations she made. When the answer to those questions turned out to be no, the tone around her started changing. What she had framed as standing up to me began looking more like a revenge move that backfired. Meanwhile, my situation went in the opposite direction. The promotion decision was finalized the following Monday. Mark called me into his office again and told me the company was moving forward with placing me into the supervisory role overseeing maintenance scheduling for several facilities. More stable hours, higher salary, less emergency driving in the middle of the night to repair failing systems. So in the span of about 10 days, the situation had flipped completely. The wedding was canceled. The relationship was over. She had lost her job after trying to interfere with mine, and I had just been promoted. I did not celebrate the situation or enjoy the fallout on her side, but it did confirm something important. The moment she turned a personal disagreement into an attempt to damage my career, the consequences stopped being under her control. The last piece of the situation happened about 2 weeks after everything fell apart. Up until then, I had not heard directly from Aisley since the night she stormed out of the house. Blocking her number had kept things quiet, and honestly, I expected that to remain the case. But separating lives after 3 years together always requires at least one final logistical step. Her belongings were still in my house. Clothes, shoes, cosmetics, some furniture she had bought for the spare room. Nothing complicated legally, but still enough that it needed to be handled properly. So I sent a message through email instead of unblocking the phone number. I kept it very simple. I told her she could come collect the rest of her things on Saturday morning. I would be home, and the process could be quick and straightforward. She responded a few hours later with a short reply agreeing to the time. Saturday morning, she arrived with a friend in a small rental van. The difference in her attitude compared to the night of the argument was obvious. No shouting, no accusations, no dramatic speeches. Just quiet and very focused on getting her things packed. We barely spoke. She moved through the house collecting boxes and bags while her friend carried them out to the van. The entire process took about 40 minutes. At one point, she paused in the living room and looked around the house for a few seconds. I could not really tell what she was thinking, but she did not say anything about it. Eventually, the last box went out the door. Before leaving, she said one thing. She said she had not expected things to turn out the way they did. I told her neither of us probably expected that 3 weeks earlier. Then she left. The house was quiet again after the van drove away. Looking back now, the strange part is how one very simple decision ended up changing everything. Canceling the wedding felt like a straightforward boundary at the time. But once she tried to turn that disagreement into an attack on my career, the situation moved into territory she could not control anymore. In the end, the wedding never happened. The relationship ended. She lost the job she had worked years to build. And my life moved forward in a direction that honestly looks more stable now than it did when we were still planning that $180,000 weekend. Bye-bye.
My fiancé declared at dinner, "I've decided we need a prenup. Everything stays separate." I nodded. Great timing. Then I revealed I'd already pulled my name from the house deposit we'd recently made. Her parents' expressions when they learned their daughter lost $50,000 were priceless. I'm Nathan, 32, male, sitting in my apartment, wedding supplies boxed up in the corner, never to be used, and feeling oddly at peace. The past 2 weeks have been wild, and I need to unpack this. I've been with Olivia, 30, for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. She works in fashion PR, earning about $65,000. I'm a software developer, making around $140,000. Not boasting, just setting the stage. We'd been searching for a house for months. Last month, we found the ideal spot. Needed renovations, but solid structure. Great location. Price, $420,000. We agreed on a 20% down payment to skip PMI, $84,000. Here's our deal. I'd cover $50,000, saved over years. She'd contribute $34,000. Her parents were gifting her $30,000, and she had $4,000 saved. We'd own it proportionally, 60-40 based on our deposits. Seemed reasonable. We signed the purchase agreement 2 weeks ago. The deposit was due in escrow within 10 days. I sent my $50,000 right away. Olivia said she was finalizing her parents' transfer. Fine, no hurry, we had time. Then came dinner at her parents' house last Sunday. Her mom, Diane, prepared an elaborate feast. Her dad, George, poured rare wine. Should have sensed a setup. Midway through dinner, Olivia tapped her glass. I've been reflecting on our future, and I've made a choice. I thought she'd share wedding venue plans. Wrong. I think we need a prenup. Everything stays separate. What's mine stays mine, what's yours stays yours. Simple and clear, I set down my fork. All right, let's discuss it. George chimed in. Wise move, Olivia. No offense, Nathan, but safeguarding assets is smart business. No offense taken. I get the idea, Olivia smiled. That sly smile she uses when she thinks she's outsmarted me. I knew you'd get it. You're so practical. We'll keep our money separate, file taxes separately, and if God forbid something happens, we each walk away with what we brought. Including the house? I asked. Well, no. The house would be shared. We're both on the deed. But I'm putting in $50,000, you're putting in $34,000. Right. But once we're married, it's marital property. 50-50. The nerve. She wanted separation when it suited her, but joint ownership when it served her. Interesting timing, I said. When did you decide this? Oh, I've been mulling it over for weeks. My friend Tara's divorce was so messy, you know. I want to avoid that. Weeks. She'd been plotting this for weeks, while I sent $50,000. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, this is perfect timing. What do you mean? Since you want everything separate, I withdrew my name from the house purchase yesterday. Silence. Diane spoke first. What do you mean, withdrew? Contacted the escrow company, said I'm no longer proceeding. Since Olivia hadn't deposited her share and we're not married, I got my funds back. The $50,000 is in my account. Olivia's face paled. You can't do that. Did it yesterday. Here's the confirmation email. George's voice tightened. But we already sent Olivia the money. Then she can buy the house alone. Her credit, her funds, her house, clear and simple, right? I can't get approved for $420,000 on my salary. Olivia's voice rose. Then find a cheaper house. But we signed the agreement. We signed. Now it's just you. I formally withdrew. You have 72 hours to complete the deposit, or you lose the house and the $5,000 earnest money. Diane stood. This is manipulation. No, this is exactly what Olivia wanted. Separate finances. I'm honoring her request, Olivia was calculating in her head. I need your $50,000. The loan was based on both our incomes. But you just said, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. That's after marriage, right? So you want my money now, but protection from my debts later? George tried authority. Son, you're going to fix this. No, I'm not. Olivia wants financial independence. She's got it. Olivia started crying. The seller will sue us. They'll sue you. My name's off everything. Your signatures on the agreement. Chaos erupted. Diane called me selfish. George threatened legal action. Olivia, in hysterics, wailed about her dream home. I stood. Thanks for dinner. Olivia, let me know what you decide about the house. You've got about 68 hours. I left and drove home. My phone exploded. 39 texts in an hour. Ignored them. Here's the twist. A mutual friend later told me Olivia had bragged to her friends about her clever prenup plan, how she'd get me to fund most of the house while keeping her family's money safe. She'd called me a bank with a ring. Well, this bank just shut down. Update 1. The desperation turned comical. The house deal collapsed. Olivia couldn't secure a $420,000 loan on her $65,000 salary. She tried everything. Banks, brokers, even sketchy lenders. Best she could get was $200,000. She lost the house and the $5,000 earnest money. Her parents were livid. Not with her, naturally, with me. George showed up at my office Monday morning. You cost us $35,000. The $30,000 gift, plus the $5,000 earnest money, I cost you nothing. I withdrew from a purchase before marriage. My right, you knew she couldn't afford it alone. Then she should have considered that before demanding separate finances. That's not what she meant. It's exactly what she said. I have her text. Everything's separate, clear, and simple. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. He tried to snatch my phone. Security intervened. He was escorted out. Tuesday, Olivia sent her friend Mia to mediate. We met at a cafe. She's willing to negotiate, Mia said. Prenup, but the house is joint. How's that a compromise? That's what she wanted originally. No, she's conceding some things, like she'll share streaming subscriptions. I laughed. Streaming subscriptions? She wants my $50,000 for a house but offers Hulu access? You're being unreasonable. I'm being consistent. Separate is separate. She loves you. She called me a bank with a ring. Mia flushed. Who told you that? Doesn't matter. It's true, isn't it? She couldn't deny it, just muttered about girl talk. Wednesday, Olivia went nuclear, posted online about how her dream home was stolen by a man intimidated by a strong, independent woman. The comments didn't go her way. Wait, you wanted a prenup but also his bigger deposit? Separate finances but joint property? Explained that a coworker commented, Didn't you say you were getting him to cover most of it? Post deleted in 2 hours. Thursday was gold. Her parents invited me to dinner to resolve things like adults. I declined but suggested a neutral restaurant. They agreed. George brought a full presentation, actual charts. Here's our plan. You and Olivia buy a house. You put in $50,000, we put in $30,000, but it's 50-50 ownership. So I pay 62% but own 50%? It's about your future together. With separate finances as Olivia demanded. Diane tried guilt. Don't you love her? Don't you want her happy? I wanted a partner. She wanted a bank. That's not love, Olivia, silent until now, erupted. You humiliated me. Everyone knows you backed out of the house. You humiliated yourself with that prenup stunt. It was for our protection. No, it was for your protection while using my money. That money's nothing to you. There it was. Entitlement. That money's 3 years of saving, cutting back, skipping trips. But to you, it's nothing because I have it and you want it. George tried one last pitch. What if we repaid you over time? Repaid me for what? I didn't give you anything for your share of the house. What house? The one we didn't buy? The one Olivia couldn't afford alone? They stormed out. Friday, I got a formal letter from a lawyer. Olivia demanded $50,000 for detrimental reliance and breach of promise. My lawyer, yes, I hired one, chuckled for 5 minutes. Responded, 1. No money exchanged between us. 2. Withdrawing from a purchase before marriage isn't a breach. Her texts prove she wanted separate finances. 4. Detrimental reliance requires reasonable reliance, and expecting someone to fund a house while demanding separation isn't reasonable. No reply from that lawyer since. Update 2. The escalation went from desperate to absurd. Olivia started telling everyone I'd financially manipulated her, spun a tale about how I'd trapped her into losing her dream home, conveniently omitted the prenup ambush. Her allies mobilized, her book club, yoga group, even her stylist messaged me to do the right thing. My response stayed firm. She wanted separate finances. She got them. Then she made a critical mistake. She went to my mother. My mom's a retired family law attorney. She's seen it all. Olivia thought tears and sob stories would sway her. Mom called me after. That girl's a piece of work. She literally said, I just wanted to protect myself while using his money to build our future. Does she listen to herself? What'd you say? That she's lucky you showed this much restraint. I've seen men lose more to worse in my courtroom. The real drama hit when Olivia tried to salvage something. She found another house, smaller, $250,000, less desirable area, wanted to restart our plans. Texted me. Found a cozy starter home. You could put down $30,000, I'll do $20,000. Fresh start? We're not together anymore, Olivia. What? Over one fight? Over you showing your true colors? I'm compromising. You're trying to get my money. Again, she showed up at my apartment that night, with her parents and a realtor. They'd printed listings. We can tour tomorrow, she said, acting like nothing happened. Olivia, we're done. The wedding's off. That's when it sank in. You're serious? Over a house? Over the prenup stunt? Over calling me a bank with a ring? Over using me while protecting yourself? George stepped in. Now listen. Sir, you're trespassing. Leave, or I call the police. Diane started crying. We gave her that money for your future together. You gave her that money. Period. What she does with it is her business. The realtor, visibly uneasy, tried to leave. Olivia grabbed her arm. Show him the listings. The poor woman looked at me. I shook my head. She bolted. Olivia went full meltdown. I did everything right. I was securing our future. You were securing your future while spending my present. That's what smart women do. Then be smart with someone else's money. They left after more yelling. Several neighbors saw it. Building management sent a letter about disturbances. I sent them security footage of 3 people forcing their way in and lingering outside my door. They issued Olivia a formal trespass warning. Final update. The aftermath was gloriously foolish. Olivia tried to keep the wedding venue, thinking I'd relent and return. Sent me an invoice for half the deposits, $8,000. I replied with screenshots of her everything separate texts. She lost those deposits too. Another $16,000 gone. Her parents paid after the house deal fell apart, hoping we'd reconcile. The engagement ring became a fight. She demanded to keep it, claiming I'd humiliated her. Legal question: who keeps the ring when an engagement ends? Answer: depends on the state, but here, it's a conditional gift. Condition: marriage, not met. Ring returns to Guyver. She refused to return it. I got my lawyer involved. She tried swapping the diamond for a fake. I'd had it appraised before and after. Caught her. Her parents threatened to sue over the swap. I threatened theft charges. Ring returned. Real. Fast. Here's the karma twist. That $30,000 her parents gave her, IRS gift tax rules apply. Since it was gifted to her, not us as a couple, and exceeded the annual exclusion, they owed gift tax. About $4,000 they didn't expect. Plus, Olivia had to pay income tax on it, unable to prove it was for a home purchase. No house was bought. Another $6,000. Their $30,000 gift cost them nearly $40,000 total for nothing. Olivia's now living with her parents. Lost her apartment after giving notice, expecting to move into the house. Still posts about overcoming betrayal and toxic relationships. Last week, a friend showed me her dating profile. Seeking a real man unafraid of successful women. Must be financially secure and generous. The friend said she's been on countless dates. When she mentions wanting a prenup, but expecting guys to cover dates, dinners, trips, they bail. One guy told her, "You want a funder, not a partner." She complained to friends that men can't handle independent women. Mia, the friend who tried to mediate, apologized. She didn't know about the bank with a ring comment until later. Olivia had planned for months to get me to buy a house, then prenup to protect her share of its value growth. The house we were buying sold to another couple for $400,000, below asking. We could have had a steal, but we was never real. It was me funding her vision while she shielded herself. My mom nailed it. She wanted a sponsor, not a partner. Thank God you saw it before the wedding. I'm good. Took that $50,000 and invested it. Up 8% already. Not dating now. When I do, I'll want a true partner. Someone recently asked if I regret my actions. My only regret is not spotting it sooner. The entitlement was always there. How she'd say, "You've got this," when bills arrived. How she'd plan lavish trips and look at me expectantly. The times she said, "What's the point of a boyfriend with a good job if he doesn't spend it?" I thought it was teasing. It wasn't. She wanted my money, not my name. My wealth, not my burdens. My assets, not my debts. She wanted, what's mine is mine, what's yours is ours. Instead, she got what she demanded, complete financial independence, from me, forever. Edit. Since people ask, yes, the prenup talk happened. Yes, she said those things in front of her parents. No, I don't think all prenups are bad. They can protect both sides. But using one to scam your partner while taking their money? That's just low. My fiancé declared, the wedding's canceled unless you double the budget. I replied, you're right, it's canceled. Then I invested the wedding fund in Bitcoin. 6 months later, when it tripled, her mom called pleading for me to rethink my decision. I'm Jake, 29, and was set to marry Brooke, 27, this past June. We'd been together 4 years, engaged for 1. Everything seemed perfect until she got hooked on Pinterest and wedding influencers. Our original budget was $25,000, $15,000 from my savings over 3 years, plus $10,000 from my parents as their wedding gift. It was enough for a charming venue, good catering, and about 100 guests. That was our agreed plan when I proposed. Then February hit. Brooke returned from her friend Carly's wedding with a new mindset. Suddenly, our cozy garden wedding was tacky and practically cheap. Jake, we need to discuss the wedding, she said, while I was wrestling with IKEA furniture, already annoyed. What about it? Carly's wedding cost $70,000 and it was flawless. Her flowers alone were $8,000. Our flower budget is $1,500. People will judge. Who? Everyone. My sorority friends, my co-workers, your family. My family doesn't care about floral displays. She rolled her eyes. That's because they don't get sophistication. We need to double the budget. At least I dropped the screwdriver. Double? To $50,000? Where's that money coming from? You could get a loan or ask your brother. He just bought that big house. My brother earned that house working 80-hour weeks for 5 years. Sure, let me ask him to bankroll your fairy tale. Jake, we agreed on $25,000. That's already generous. It's not. The average wedding costs $35,000 now. We're below average. Is that what you think I'm worth? I saw her angle. This wasn't about flowers or venues. It was about outshining her friends, Instagram clout showing off. You're right, I said. The wedding's canceled. Her face cycled through 5 emotions. Wait, what? You said it's off unless I double the budget. I'm not doubling it, so it's off. Jake, don't be ridiculous. You just said it's off. I'm agreeing. She started crying, not sad tears, angry ones. You're throwing away 4 years over money? Looks like you are. She stormed out to her mom, Gloria's house. Within an hour, my phone exploded. Gloria. Jake, what did you do to my daughter? Brooke's sister, Tiffany. Canceling the wedding over $25,000? Stingy jerk Carly, of $70,000 wedding fame. Wow, Jake, way to reveal your true self. Brooke deserves better. I turned off my phone and did something reckless. Opened my laptop, logged into Coinbase, and dumped the entire $25,000 wedding fund into Bitcoin. Why? Partly spite, partly a gamble. If I was single again, why not take a risk? Bitcoin was around $28,000 per coin then. Everyone called it dumb. My friend Nate thought I'd lost it. Brooke returned 3 days later with Gloria. Jake, let's talk like grown-ups, Gloria said, plopping onto my couch uninvited. Nothing to talk about. Brooke called off the engagement. I agreed. She didn't call off anything, Gloria snapped. She made a fair request. Modern weddings are a rip-off. I'm not going into debt for a party. Brooke whipped out her phone. I posted that we're delaying until you get your finances straight. You should post it's canceled completely, and you should probably move out. Her face looked like I'd hit her with a wet towel. You're kicking me out? We're not engaged. Why would you stay? I can't afford rent alone. Should have thought of that before issuing ultimatums. Gloria went ballistic. You pathetic little man, after all my daughter did for you. What? Like paying half the rent sometimes when she wasn't blowing it on yoga classes? They left, but not before Gloria threatened to sue for emotional distress. Good luck. Update 1. Bitcoin climbed to $35,000. My $25,000 was now worth about $31,250. Not life-altering, but gratifying. I'd only told Nate. Meanwhile, Brooke launched a social media blitz, posting old photos of us with captions like, "Sometimes love falters when someone prioritizes cash over your joy," and "Know your value, ladies." Her friends ate it up, commenting about my financial abuse and manipulative ways. One creative soul said I had low-value guy vibes. Then Brooke started dating Todd, a CrossFit coach who looked like he lived on protein shakes. She posted incessantly, him lifting her on his shoulders, them at fancy restaurants, captioned, "Real love upgrade" and "Know your worth." Whatever. I was focused on work and my Bitcoin. Then our old venue called. "Mr. Jake, it's Patricia from Rosewood Gardens about your deposit." "Right. Can you refund it?" "There's a problem." A Miss Brooke called, saying she's still planning the wedding and wants to shift the date, but she needs the deposit. "We're not together." "Refund my card. I'll need that in writing." Also, she was quite rude to our staff and banned from the property. Apparently, Brooke showed up demanding they move the date with Todd as the groom. When they required my approval, she threw a tantrum, insulted the staff as useless workers, and threatened bad reviews. They refunded my $3,000 deposit immediately. But Brooke wasn't done. She spread lies that I'd stolen her wedding money, claiming she'd contributed equally, she gave $0, and that I was holding her inheritance hostage, a 1997 Honda Civic with no AC. Then came her meltdown. She got Todd to confront me at my new gym. I'd switched after the breakup, but she tracked me down. I was mid-deadlift when this jacked-up guy loomed over me. "You Jake?" "Kinda busy, dude." "I'm Todd, Brooke's boyfriend." I set the bar down. "Congrats?" "Give her back her money." "What money?" "The wedding money." "She says you stole $30,000, I laughed. $30,000? It was $25,000 and it was mine. "Don't mess around, man. Be a man and give her what's hers. Show me one receipt, one transfer, one shred of proof she contributed, and I'll pay her every cent." He stood there, probably debating if he could deadlift me into the floor. "She doesn't have receipts, but because she didn't contribute." "Anything else?" He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. A staff member appeared. "Everything okay?" "This guy's harassing me, demanding money his girlfriend says I owe." Todd got escorted out, banned from the gym. Brooke was racking up bans. Update 2. Bitcoin dropped to $22,000. My $25,000 now worth about $19,600. Not ideal, but I held. Brooke and Todd's relationship imploded. Turns out Mr. Protein was coaching 3 other women, very hands-on. Brooke showed up at my apartment at 11 p.m. Wednesday, drunk, yelling, "Jake, I know you're in there." I called the cops, reporting my ex was intoxicated and trespassing. They took her to Gloria's, but not before she vomited in my building's lobby. The property manager was ecstatic. Next morning, Gloria called from an unknown number. "You called the police on Brooke?" She was drunk, trespassing, and screaming at 11 p.m. She was trying to apologize. At midnight, wasted? You've ruined her life. She could have had Todd, but she was stuck on you. Todd? Who cheated on her? That's not... How did you... She needed closure? She got it when she canceled our engagement over flowers. Gloria's next move was wild. She called my mom, a former Marine with zero tolerance for nonsense. Mom called me. "Gloria spent 40 minutes whining that you're destroying Brooke's life. Want me to handle it?" "What did you say?" "That Brooke made her choice, and choices have consequences." Then she called me a bitter hag who raised a loser. "Oh, really?" "Yeah, I've got her number, her Facebook, and her husband's work email. Mom, don't. Too late. Sent Harold their whole Instagram saga. Those posts calling you cheap and abusive. Harold, Gloria's husband, was clueless, thinking the wedding was just postponed for compatibility reasons. He was livid. Update 3. Bitcoin hit $52,000. My $25,000 now worth about $46,400. I woke to 18 missed calls from Gloria, not Brooke. Voicemails ranged from, Jake, honey, we got off on the wrong foot, to Brooke's heartbroken, to, we heard about your crypto win, congrats. Brooke wants to celebrate, to you selfish jerk, call me back. Brooke texted from multiple numbers, heard you killed it with crypto. Proud of you. Can we talk? I've grown so much. I always believed in us. The wedding drama was just stress. One coffee? Todd was nothing. You won. Happy now? I'm miserable. My therapist says I was wrong. I know about the Bitcoin, Jake. How'd they know? Nate's girlfriend Bailey worked with Carly, Brooke's friend. Nate told Bailey. Bailey told Carly. Carly told Brooke. The campaign kicked off. Brooke posted a manipulative Instagram sob story with our old photos. Sometimes you don't see what you have until it's gone. Jake, you were right. I let superficial things cloud my judgment. You built a future while I chased a party. Forgive me. Second chances, growth, love prevails. Comments were a mix. Win him back, girl. He doesn't deserve you, queen. Men like that are rare. Then came the ambush. I was at Whole Foods, cereal aisle, when Brooke appeared. Full makeup, sundress, like a rom-com lead. Jake, what are the odds? Pretty good since you stalked my Instagram and I posted about groceries. She gave a nervous laugh. Okay, caught me. I needed to see you. Why? I made the biggest mistake of my life. An older woman paused to eavesdrop. Brooke, sensing an audience, went on. I was shallow and lost the best thing I ever had. That best thing's now worth $46,400. The woman gasped. Brooke's facade cracked briefly. I don't care about the money. Really? You won't mind me holding it long term, maybe 5 years. Could be worthless by then. I don't care. I want you pass. I left her there. The woman said something to her, but I didn't hear it. That night, Gloria and Harold showed up with wine. We come in peace, Harold said, looking drained. I stayed in the doorway. Gloria launched in. Jake, I've been a terrible future mother-in-law. I pushed Brooke to chase meaningless things. It's my fault. You two belong together. We don't. Harold cut in. Enough, Gloria. Jake, she's after your Bitcoin. She and her sister's boyfriend, a paralegal, think if you marry quick, she can divorce you for half. Gloria flushed. Harold, what? Kid deserves the truth. Is that true, Gloria? She couldn't meet my eyes. It's not. We just thought. Get off my property. Harold dragged her away. Sorry, kid. I tried to reason with them. Update 4. Bitcoin dipped to $48,000, but I held, still well above my initial investment. Brooke's plan flopped, but she kept going. She started a GoFundMe titled Rebuild After Financial Manipulation, claiming I tricked her into giving up her savings for a wedding, then stole it for crypto. She raised $73 from 3 donors, including Gloria. But Brooke's money habits bit her. She owed $18,000 in credit card debt, with Gloria covering minimum payments. When Harold saw the GoFundMe, he cut them off. No more card payments, phone plan, or car insurance. Brooke moved back to their place and got a Target job, quitting after 3 days because retail's beneath me. Tiffany, her sister, messaged me. Jake, I'm sorry. Brooke's unhinged, saying you're destined, that the universe will reunite you. That's worrying. It gets worse. She's been driving by your place, knows your routine, thinks you're dating because you posted a restaurant photo with 2 plates. That was me and Nate celebrating a promotion. Thanks for the heads up. There's more. She applied for a crypto loan thinking if Jake can do it, it's easy. Got denied and blamed you for gatekeeping wealth. I installed a security camera the next day. Good call. It caught Brooke at 3 a.m., slipping a 10-page letter under my door about our soul connection and a $300 psychic who called us twin flames. She borrowed the psychic money from Carly. Speaking of Carly, she called from Brooke's phone. Jake, Brooke needs closure. She got it when she ended things. Real closure. She can't move on. Not my issue. She was right. You're cold. She said I'm her twin flame. That's what I thought. Calls stopped for a week. Then Harold messaged me on LinkedIn. Kid, heads up. Gloria and Brooke are planning something with your company's HR. Be careful. 2 days later, HR called me in. Jake, we got a complaint you're harassing an ex. My stomach sank. What? Miss. Brooke sent screenshots of texts she says are from you. They showed fake messages. You'll never find better than me and I own you. Those are fabricated. I haven't contacted her since the breakup. Check the numbers. They didn't match mine. HR dismissed it but documented everything in case she escalated. She did. Contacted 3 of my exes via Facebook, calling me dangerous and manipulative, offering $500 for complaints. My ex Rachel sent me screenshots of Brooke's offer. Rachel's reply, Jake's the most predictable, steady guy ever. We broke up because he wanted board game nights every Friday. Try again. Thanks, I guess. Final update. Bitcoin hit $81,000. I sold half my position, pocketing $23,000 profit after taxes, keeping the rest invested. Paid off my car, put the rest in safe index funds. Boring and stable, like me. Then Brooke's news broke. She was dating Roger, a 58-year-old divorced dentist from her temp job at his office. She told him she was 23, a digital marketing strategist on a career break, and never engaged. Roger was hooked, talking marriage after 3 weeks. Brooke posted about her mature king, and age is just a number when souls align. Gloria was ecstatic, boasting about Brooke's real provider. Roger's daughter found Brooke's old Instagram posts, the ones about me, the wedding plans, the chaos, and hired a PI who uncovered the debt, manipulation attempts, and fake HR complaint. Roger dumped her at Olive Garden during unlimited breadsticks. Our friend Amy, their server, overheard it all. Brooke threw breadsticks at him and got banned. It's a legend in our circle. Gloria called one last time. Hope you're satisfied. You've ruined Brooke's life. I haven't spoken to her in months. How's this on me? She'd have divorced you for half your assets. Harold spilled your plan. She's trashed her own reputation. Nobody will date her. Maybe she should focus on herself instead of trapping men. You put money obsession in her head. I tried to have a reasonable $25,000 wedding. She demanded double. That Bitcoin was for your wedding. It was my savings for a wedding she canceled. She hung up. Brooke's now at a call center, living with her parents. Gloria and Harold are in counseling. Tiffany cut them off. The CrossFit gym banned Brooke for harassing Todd's new girlfriend. Roger's with someone his age. Carly's out $300. I'm thriving. Still holding Bitcoin. Still steady. Started dating Amber, a software engineer who thinks lavish weddings are dumb and wants to elope in Vegas. Ironically. My mom sent Gloria a Christmas card with my smiling photo. Petty, but I don't care. To those saying I should have given Brooke another chance, why? She showed her true colors. When someone values Instagram over your future, believe them. To those calling me the bad guy, I kept my money and dodged manipulation. If that's villainy, I'll wear it proudly. To Brooke, who's probably stalking my socials, Bitcoin's at $60,000. My holdings are soaring. How's Roger? Oh, right. Edit. No, I won't share Brooke's Instagram. Let's not go there. Edit 2. To whoever sent me the Olive Garden TikTok of the breadstick throw, you're a hero. Roger dodged those like a pro. Edit 3. Harold apologized and we grab beers sometimes. He's a solid guy in a tough spot. Secretly glad I didn't fold. She said, I have people who can replace you anytime. I nodded. Good. That night, I didn't argue. Didn't warn her. I just removed one thing she depended on the most. 2 days later, Her replacements stopped answering, and that's when she realized something bigger had already been taken away. My mother said a lot of things over the years that should have broken me, but the one that finally set me free was the one she meant as a threat. We were standing in her kitchen, the one I had renovated, by the way, down to the tile grout. I spent a Saturday afternoon on my knees scraping clean. She was on the phone with my aunt, half listening to me explain that I couldn't drive her to her nail appointment that Thursday because I had a work presentation I'd been preparing for 3 weeks. She held up one finger at me. Wait. Then she finished her call, set the phone on the counter, and looked at me the way she looked at a receipt she thought was wrong. I have people who can replace you anytime, she said. I nodded. Good. I meant it. I meant it more than I'd meant anything in years. Let me explain who I am before I explain what I did, because context matters with stories like this. I'm 31. I work in IT infrastructure for a mid-sized logistics company. I make decent money, nothing flashy, but enough that I bought my own place at 28 and still managed to cover my mother's car insurance, her streaming subscriptions, her internet bill, and the occasional grocery run when she called to say she was stretched thin. I am the eldest of 3. My brother Darius is 26 and works part-time at a sporting goods store when he feels like showing up. My sister Priya is 23 and is, in my mother's words, still finding herself, which means she hasn't worked a full month consecutively since she graduated high school 5 years ago. I have been my mother's logistics coordinator, emotional support, handyman, and ATM since I was 19 years old and got my first real job. Not because she was struggling, she owns her home outright, inherited from my late grandfather. Not because she had no one else. She has a sister 20 minutes away and a social circle of church friends who genuinely love her. She leaned on me because I said yes. Every single time. For 12 years, I said yes. The nail appointment thing was small, genuinely trivial, but it landed on top of 12 years of accumulated weight, and I finally felt the floor give way beneath the relationship I had been propping up alone. The people who can replace you line wasn't new in concept. She had said versions of it before. Usually when I declined something or pushed back on anything, Darius would do this without complaining. Your cousin Marcus never talks to his mother like that. I don't know why you make everything so difficult. What was new was how clean and direct she was about it this time. No softening, no pretense. She was telling me plainly, you are interchangeable. You are a function, not a son. I drove home that night, and I sat in my car in the parking garage for probably 20 minutes. Not crying, not angry, just doing the math. Here is what I had set up for my mother over the past 4 years, because I am the kind of person who solves problems systematically. I had put her on my phone plan, a family plan I managed, for lines, and I paid the primary bill. I had set up her internet through a provider where I was the account holder, because she had a billing dispute years ago and asked me to take it over. I had connected all her streaming services, 4 of them, under my email and payment method. I had set up her Google account and was the recovery contact. Her laptop, when it had issues, came to me. Her smart TV, which I had bought her 2 Christmases ago, was registered under my account. Her doorbell camera, which I installed after a package was stolen, also mine. Her entire digital life ran through me. I hadn't set it up that way to control her. I want to be honest about that. I set it up that way because it was easier, and because every time there was a problem, I got the call, and it was simpler to just be the account holder than to walk her through resets and verification codes every 6 months. It was a convenience for both of us. Until it wasn't. I didn't do anything dramatic that night. I didn't send a message. I didn't call. I opened my laptop, made myself a cup of tea, and I started quietly untangling myself. I transferred the internet account, called the provider, requested an account holder change to her name, gave them her details, and asked them to send her the new login credentials. I removed her line from my phone plan. I had checked, she was month to month and could set up her own account without penalty. I logged out of all shared streaming services on her devices. I changed the recovery email on her Google account to Darius's number, which I thought was generous, honestly, and I unlinked the doorbell camera from my app and reset it to factory settings. She would have to set it up again herself or ask one of the people who could replace me. I did it all in about 90 minutes. I finished my tea. I went to bed. I didn't tell her. I didn't warn her. I didn't send a by the way text. I just removed the scaffolding I had built around her life and waited. It took less than 48 hours. The first call came from Darius, not her. Hey, Mom's saying her internet isn't working? I told him calmly that I had transferred the account to her name and she should have received an email with setup instructions. Silence. Then, why'd you do that? I said it made more sense for her to own her own account. He said, okay, in a tone that suggested it very much did not feel okay, and hung up. The second call came from my aunt, which told me my mother had already started making calls rather than handling anything herself. My aunt asked if everything was okay between us. I said yes, completely. I just thought it was time my mother had her own accounts. My aunt made a sound that wasn't quite agreement and wasn't quite concern, and then said she'd pass that along. My mother called on the second day, in the afternoon. Her voice had a specific register I recognized. It wasn't angry, not yet. It was the register she used when she was recalibrating, trying to figure out which approach would work. Your brother says you moved my internet account. Yes, I said. You're the account holder now. It makes more sense. I don't know how to deal with all that. The email has instructions. If you get stuck, Darius can help. A pause. Darius doesn't know about these things. You have people who can help, I said. Not mean, just even. I'm sure someone can figure it out. The silence that followed was long enough that I thought she might hang up. Instead, she said, quieter, what is this about? And that was the question, wasn't it? Not about internet accounts. Not about nail appointments or phone plans. It was about 12 years of yes, ending without ceremony, without a fight, without the dramatic confrontation she probably would have known how to handle. I didn't yell. I didn't send a long message itemizing every grievance. I just stopped being the infrastructure her life ran on, quietly and completely. Nothing is wrong, I said. I just thought you should have your own things in your name. It's healthier that way. Over the next week, I learned things. I learned that Darius, when asked to help set up the internet, came over once, couldn't figure it out, and told her to call the provider herself. I learned that my aunt helped her for an afternoon, but doesn't have the patience for tech stuff, and eventually gave up. I learned that my mother's church friend, whose son works with computers, came by and got the internet sorted, but then my mother called him 3 more times over small things until he started answering less quickly. The streaming services, she either figured out or went without. I don't know which, and I noticed I was genuinely comfortable not knowing. She texted me 2 weeks later. Not an apology, not exactly. More like an opening. Haven't heard from you. Hope you're okay. I replied, I'm good. Work has been busy. Hope you're well. We texted a few more times over the following weeks. Normal, surface-level stuff. It felt strange at first, like speaking a language I only half remembered. But it also felt, for the first time in a long time, like something I was choosing rather than something I owed. I've thought a lot about what actually happened. Not the practical stuff, the accounts and the phone plan and all of that. I mean what actually happened. The thing I took wasn't internet service. It was the assumption. The assumption that I would always be there, always absorb it, always show up no matter what she said or how she said it. That assumption had been the most expensive thing I owned, and I had been paying rent on it since I was 19 years old. I'm not estranged from her. I'm not out here telling people to cut off their families. That's not what this is. I've seen her twice since then. Once for Darius's birthday dinner. Once when she needed someone to look at a leak under her sink, which I did because I'm still a human being who doesn't want his mother's kitchen to flood. Both visits were shorter than they used to be. Both were quieter. She hasn't said anything about people who could replace me. The thing is, she was right. There were people. People who could drive her to appointments. People who could help with her internet. People who could sit with her when she needed company. She had built a life with real relationships in it. Relationships she had simply never needed to rely on because I was always first in line. Removing myself didn't destroy her. It just meant she had to remember that those other people existed. And I got to remember something too, that I had a Thursday presentation I was proud of, a project I had worked on for 3 weeks, and not a single person in my life asked how it went. I presented it. My manager said it was the clearest infrastructure proposal she'd seen all year. My team lead asked if I'd consider leading the next one. I said yes, and that yes felt like mine.